Welcome back to This Week in Brave Exvius for August 31st, 2022. Tony Ortiz here, back again, and thankfully we can actually get into the game this week, as you can see. We will talk about that later in the show. Just want to make sure everything's good with the stream here. We're good to go. Okay, and if you want to join me live for these, they happen every Wednesday night, sometime around 8:30 to 9 o'clock-ish over on Twitch. There'll be a link in the description down below, so thanks for coming out and hanging out with me over there live. If you come out with hang out with me over there live, you'll also can ask questions in real time. They'll pop up here and over there, over here with alerts and stuff like that. And we recorded, and I didn't want to change the pictures this week because I had like a nice rotation. But last week's show wasn't really a show. We just kind of talked about all the problems with Gumi really, and meta. But we'll talk about that later. Let's first get to the content that's in the game for this week that we should have had access to from Thursday. So everything got extended. Let's just throw that out there. So when we scroll down further, you'll see stuff that should have been gone already, like Olive stuff and the Malice. And I believe this is staying. Oh no, it's not. Okay, so we'll talk about this actually. Oh, this is staying for another. Okay, it says the 7th. So I'm just observing here. So we're gonna lose Olive. We're gonna lose. Looks like Item World and Judge Magister and the Raid. But yeah, looks like this is sticking around. Keeping Malice is sticking around. Okay, well, for another week. Whatever. But yeah, that stuff, we're not going to talk about that because we've already talked about it. We've already talked about Clash. So we're just going to talk about this stuff here. 3 events. You got an energy farming event here with the standard town exploration. And you've got 2 bosses. Both are pretty easy. The machine one is super easy. This one here, I won't really talk too much about it, but the tricky one with this one that I thought was notable was that okay, not that. Oh yeah, here we go. So a clear within 2 turns and also a party of 4 or less. I think this has been said by a lot of content creators this week, but you don't have to like bend over backwards to get these both done in the same run. It's not that much energy. What is it, 30? Not a big deal. Do these 2 separately if you have to. Take a friend unit that's super powerful, blow it up in 2 turns, then take your party 4 or less and clear it a little slower. This is interesting. I did write some notes about this. I like this because this is more narrow. This is more of a challenge that it doesn't hurt newer players or mid-game level players, but it is a little bit more challenging for late-game players because now you can look at a challenge like this and you can decide, all right, what's the team that can actually do this in 1 turn? What gear do I need and all that? But all it does is it puts a 30 energy tax on newer players or mid-game players that maybe can't do this. As long as this isn't like a regular appearance, I think this is a cool change up. So I think this is something that we should probably have every once in a while. And it came along with another one that didn't have this, right? So this is kind of cool as well. The rewards aren't ridiculous or anything. You're not missing out on a massive amount of stuff if you don't clear this. But you can see this one doesn't have any turn limit, nor does it have any party size limit. And also you get unifragments in here. So your free uni is already going to get EX1 for free just by clearing this bad boy. And this one's really easy. It just has, you have to take Final Fantasy X units, but you can take the free Star Player Titus, you can take your free Waka, you can take your free Ject, you can take your free Yuna, and then you can literally leave the last spot open, and then you can take any friend's... wait, can you take a friend unit on this? Let me take a look real quick. Okay, no, you can't take your friend unit, but you can basically take those 4, and then also there's Kamari for free, who is a 7-star unit, is not that bad. So I would say just if you're struggling with this, just hang out. Wait for those fragments to roll in from your daily logins. Definitely use your Wakas that I'm sure you've saved up. Get him up to EX2, so he has the or is it 2 or 3 he gets something that fills up his LB, so you'll want to use that on turn 1, and it's a good break. And then you can use Kamari 7-star, or you can use any other 7-star FF10 unit, but with an EX1 Yuna, an EX1 Titus, Star Player Titus, and an EX1 Ject, you'll be fine. You'll be able to do all this without a problem, and you'll get all that stuff for free, or you can get it through this top event up here. So don't hesitate to leave that. I like these 2 at the same time, but once again, coming back to this, I think this is kind of a cool way to change it up. It doesn't really hurt anybody. It just makes some players have to do it twice, and it's not that big of a hassle. And it's got a Mastery Crown locked, which we actually have units that are worth using Mastery Crowns on. I'll talk about that once we're done talking about the units. Let's talk about this last event here. This is bog standard. It's a super easy scaling upwards event. You have a quest where if you clear all 5 stages, you will get some extra free summon stuff. But it's your standard event point, building up things here. One curious thing I'd like to point out, which I thought was very odd, was that we did get a run back of Kamari, like I just mentioned. But the problem, for some odd reason, is he's a limited unit. Like, you can't pull him. You can buy one here, and you can buy his Prism. And you can see you can buy Waka, and you can buy all his stuff, and you can buy the Star Player Titus and Eject Fragments as well. And you can get Waka's STMRs, but Kamari's are not in here, which is very odd. This should be the other way around. Waka's a 3-star unit that you can still pull out of the normal pool, unlike Guy and there was one more that's coming soon. Amaranth. Amaranth, I think you only can pull in the EX pool, or I don't know. Either way, you can still pull all of them out of the old tickets that you can grind from daily coins, but that's it. And that's kind of not a great way to do it. This should be Kamari stuff. I don't know why this is Waka stuff. It's so easy to get this stuff from just having extra Wakas laying around. I was able to STMR 2 Wakas and take both Wakas to EX3 with the Wakas that I had laying around that I've been saving for 6 months. So, I mean, this is really puzzling. Kamari's STMR is actually really good too. It's actually might even be the best in slot weapon for the Kamari that we're going to get tomorrow. So I really don't know what this is all about, and wasting an STMR Moogle on Kamari doesn't feel good, especially after what just happened to us with Facebook users anyway. This is a pretty bog standard. This isn't actually a bad weapon. I'd say, this might be one of the first things if you're a new player to grab, because it gives counter attack and it gives Aqua Killer, which is really rare, and it's 2-handed, even though it's pretty mediocre attack power. If you're a new player, definitely grab this as soon as you can. I started a second account because I was bored, and I've only been playing it for a few days, and the first thing I'm going to buy when I actually waltz in here is this sword, because you just don't have gear. They give you a bunch of pulls when you're a new player, and they give you a bunch of TMR Moogles, but there's not a lot of good weapons laying around in the TMR slot, unless you pull a unit like TWIBE, where their weapon is in their TMR slot. That's very rare. But yeah, everything else is bog standard. No surprises here. So I will come back and spend my points later. I typically will buy all 5 black pure Crys, because there's more black Crys upgrades in the game than any other kind. And then I'll buy whatever, I'll buy all the necessary stuff. I'll buy the STMR tickets. I'll buy the main unit. I'll buy the good gear. I'll buy rank EXP maps, and if you're newer, you should buy the Star Course EXP maps. I don't buy them anymore because I don't need them. I bought everything with Star Course that's worth anything. But yeah, and then after that, I will just go and buy the black Crys that I need, any other Crys that are I'm low on, and then whatever Foresight I can afford with what I have left over. And again, I'll just fill these in as whatever I'm low on. Like right now, I'm really low on blue, so I'll probably be buying blue, a lot of blue with whatever I have left over. So yeah, that's that. Let's talk about the units. All right, so we've got Titus, I believe, up first. New Guardian Titus. Ticket Titus. All right. So Titus, wow, just a weird, it's kind of like a weird deal going on with Titus. He's got decent gear. The problem with his chess pieces, I'm sure you've found out, is doesn't hit morale LBs and is very limited on who can actually benefit. Obviously benefits himself, but that's about it. And he's a premium unit, by the way. It takes 60k to get this guy on pity. 150 double hand attack with 50% attack. This is technically better than Elena's, because that's 150 attack and 150 magic, and Elena's like the only unit in the game that actually needs both. Almost all the time when I'm putting 150 on, I'm adding, it for just one or the other. because a unit might have an odd number where they have 50 extra, and like the 200 magic or the 200 attack won't top them off, or it'll take them over. So I'll just throw this on instead, just for, you know, laughs. But unfortunately, only giving it percent attack, it just doesn't do a whole lot. So this isn't really good. It's okay, it's fine if you're a newer player, but it's not really that useful. So his gear is grossly overrated, unfortunately. And then his kit is just kind of decent. Like, he's got some boosts, but he doesn't really come into line with any other great DPS. I mean, his biggest shout is he has Omni Killer, similar to Dark Rain, and I think there's one other unit. They just have 200 killer to everything when you get him to EX3. His normal attack, interestingly enough, does fill LB gauge, so this is kind of interesting. You could use him as a battery like Kresnik, but also have damage if you don't need the healing or whatever from Kresnik. But man, is he not worth 60k for a pity. I don't know if there's been a worse deal for 60k for a pity, but besides Summoner Yuna herself, which they just gave us for free. So that should tell you how bad of a deal she was. I guess id would be the worst 60k pity that we've ever had. Yeah, id is the worst. Summoner Yuna is the second worst, not by much. And then this is definitely number 3, I think. For when they came out, 60k to pity, every premium unit that I could think of is better than this. And that just sucks because a lot of people like Final Fantasy X. I'm not a big fan. I enjoyed the game for what it was. I played through a few times. I did a super rebuild, the Sphere Grid playthrough, and I farmed and I built like 4 or 5. Yeah, I built 5 unique weapons. You know, 5 of the empty slot weapons that you get that have nothing on them, and you can add whatever stats you want. Yeah, there's certain characters in the game I don't really care for as characters. I think they're very uninteresting, and they happen to be all the characters that everybody else seems to like. So Titus, I don't give a shit about. Yuna, I can't stand. The rest of the playable characters are fine, I guess. Riku's pretty whatever, bland. I like Lulu a lot, but it's more of her aesthetic and design. She doesn't really have great dialogue in the game. Wakka's an interesting character. He's got a compelling story, but you know, aesthetically, I think he's just not that good, like, of a design. I mean, one of those pants, bro. He's got a cool haircut, though. I like his haircut and his headband. But from the neck down, I don't think that Wakka looks very compelling. And, you know, using a basketball / whatever as a weapon is kind of a cool idea. I do enjoy that, so I'll give him that. Kamari, I think, is a good character, solid character, but again, Final Fantasy X just is not a good game for the dialogue alone. The story alone in Final Fantasy X is very piss poor. I mean, I thought Final Fantasy IX story was bad, and I think it's kind of a toss up about which story is worse. You know, at least Final Fantasy IX story is good for the first like disc and a half. Then it goes downhill real fast and becomes ultra predictable, and you know, it's like a remake basically. 10 story is really bad in the beginning, pretty bad in the middle, gets a little bit better right before the end, and then the ending is terrible. So, you know, it's really tough. We're not even going to talk about the sequel. Not even going to talk about it, but yeah, I just don't really care for these units. So the one thing that would get me to pull for a terrible premium unit like id is that I love the character, I love the game the character's from, and I want to have it in my box just to stare at. And, you know, Photoshop my face onto the Wolverine, you know, meme where he's laying in bed with the picture, which of what would be Jean Grey, but then put like the well-tall id on the picture, like, I mean, with the hand, like, I love you. That's, I mean, I'm a sucker. Xenogears is one of my favorite IPs of all time. I'm buying anything that's related to it, pretty much. So yeah, I wish he was better. He should have come with buffs. The hot topic of late, outside of the, you know, getting locked out and everything, has been, should JP units get buffs to be useful in global content? And I will not dive deeper into that myself than just my quick, like, one sentence opinion on it, because I think a lot of people do a better job with it A lot of people are way better at this game than me. Um, I'm more of like a consumer. Like I'm just like the average guy. That's why I'm giving you. That's why I do this. I give you the average guy's perspective. Somebody who spends a little bit of money here and there, not a lot, you know, and it has no affiliation, no interest in like making friends with the company itself. So I can give you an honest opinion, no matter what they're up to, right? I'm never going to you know take their side unless I actually think that they did a good job, right? So, and I have to say, like, yes, I think they should get buffed. I really do, because it's the reason we're all here. We're all here to play the Final Fantasy units. We like the series, whether or not we like recent titles or not. And when something comes out and you have to buy it because it just looks cool and you can't actually use it to do anything, it's a huge feel bad, and it turns people off from spending. And mobile games, if you don't have revenue, you don't survive. So, yeah, I really think that they need buffs, and that's all there is to it. And they should have started with this one because it's been a while since we had a premium. We had Wilk at Anniversary, so it's about time, once every 3 months or so. The last two premiums were super good, and even then, you could make an argument that Graf was pretty good. At the time, he was one of the better attackers available, even though his price tag was high and his gear requirement was high, and also you had to have another unit at EX3 to enable his best strategies. But yeah, Titus just he doesn't tick any of those boxes for me at all. He does have a really good card, though, which is cool, and it's not locked to Final Fantasy X. So I guess... Oh, I forgot about Knights of Grandshelt. Knights of Grandshelt, though, is more of a victim of the game being bent around him. Since he's locked to light damage, they really need to put in stuff in the game that lets you do light damage to it, and Gumi just didn't. So they kind of just... They sold you Knights of Grandshelt and then kind of like spat in your face afterwards. I mean, I don't even want to bring up them changing the Dark Vision's boss element so that people would be more inclined to buy Final Fantasy 12 units that they didn't want. So yeah, that's pretty tough. But even then, I still think Knights of Granshelt's a better unit. I think the Knights of Granshelt has better gear, and I think his card is better too. But this card is pretty good. I don't know how do we even look at the card? We'll have to go probably to the news. You can go look at the card. You're on your own. The card's pretty good, and I don't believe it's locked to Final Fantasy X. I think it's locked to something else. It might be mail units or something like that. I don't know. Lulu. Lulu's just a copy and paste breaker for water that we haven't gotten yet. So if you have Edge or the new Leftia or the new Poppy or the President Reagan or whatever, she is the same copy and paste as all those, which sucks because I really like Lulu. Lulu's probably my favorite character from 10. Maybe Auron is my favorite. I don't know, or Kamari. Like that's the three people that I always want in my party. If you didn't have to use Titus, I would use those three characters for sure. But yeah, she's just fun to have because she's Lulu. That's it. I pulled a couple on my my new account that I made, and I'm using her, but because she's a decent breaker. But the problem is that as soon as you get into the part of the game where you need to actually have a good breaker, she just doesn't do it for you anymore. That's when you need your Kaito or your Fravia, stuff like that. So yeah, that's Lulu in a nutshell. So yeah, I will not be pulling on anything here. I will not be using any tickets on anything here. I'd rather save my tickets. I'd actually rather use my tickets on Olive, but I pulled a second Olive in my daily summons. So I got my second Olive, I got my second gun, I got my second TMR that enables equipping guns. So I'm good on Olive. I just have Olive in my Shard Dungeon now. I also pulled a Roberta in daily summons, which finished my Roberta off to EX3, so I was able to slot in id as well to my my Shard Dungeon party. So I'm happy with that. I'm fine with it. I grabbed all of her shards that you could grab. So, she's EX2. That's good enough. She'll be EX3 at some point. And, I got the card from the banner as well. So, there you go. No tickets for me. No pulls this week. we'll talk about Kamari next week. I might have something that there might be one thing that'll give me to pull. We'll talk about it next week. So I'll leave that to your imagination. All right, and then let's see. We've talked about all this stuff, right? We won't have our Clash preview stuff until tomorrow, so we'll talk about that next week as well. And yeah, let me just give you a quick synopsis of starting the new account. So I started the new account on my tablet, and while we were still down, and I was just goofing around. I think there's a couple cool content creators doing this like new account kind of thing right now. I used to watch a guy do a new Warframe account. He would do like a free-to-play account every year, get you to about 20% through the game, and kind of show you how to do it. And because games like that and like this, they don't have very good tutorials. They don't really tell you what you need to focus on, what's worthless, what to skip. And there's places you can get lost and just waste a ton of your time. You can be super inefficient. If you should be one thing, you should be efficient. So I really appreciate that content. So I figured, you know what? I've got no idea. I didn't think this would be resolved until tomorrow. So I started playing on a new account just to see what happened. My pulls are okay. Nothing great. A couple premiums, though. I got a Tifa and a Orin, which are not great, but pulling any old premium right now isn't good. Maybe Tyvis because of the speed clearing ability of him once you get his gauntlet, but that's about it. For old premiums, I wouldn't even want to really pull any new premiums, to be honest. I think Esther is the only premium I'd want to pull at this point. Maybe Cog for the card if you could rush him, through shards and stuff. We'll have to wait and see on these shards that they're going to pay us out from voting and see if we can use them on premiums or not. So hopefully they will let us use them on premiums. That would be really cool. Especially after what's happened. So, but yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, it's interesting again. A couple big things that I took away from playing for a few days from scratch. When I started to do some of the story stuff, which wasn't until later because there's a raid and an item world, so you can like rank up off those and it refills you every time you rank up. So I really just kind of kept doing those, and then I'd rank up, and then I'd keep doing those, and I kind of ignored story for a few. Going through like the first continent, getting Ifrit and Siren, looking at the daunting task ahead of all of the explorations and all the other quests like Madam's Manor, like the keys, the Earth keys, and each type of key. Going through Chapter 3 for Bluefina, which isn't really worth it. Going through Chapter 4, which is worth it for all the cool stuff that comes out of Chapter 4. I was just looking around, and I was like, this isn't for a new player in 2022 that wants to get their hands on the actual game, So what I was thinking of is that they really just should replace a lot of that stuff with gear from units that aren't premium and that aren't limited time. So, I think giving Flammy a three race 75% killer was awesome. I think giving Kyrie, that really good materia that she has, was cool. But I think within about 6 to 9 months of those units getting that, you should have a rerun of that, either in the Clash shop or somewhere else, and let people earn them with just farming the rest of the game. Because they're really good items. I'll give you a good example. Equip Fist comes from Madam's Manor. It takes forever. It's almost not needed now because, there's so many other good weapons, and we already have an equipped sword, an equipped spear, and now we have an equipped gun, and we have good imperils for all of those. We don't have a spectacular Fist imperil. Like, Wilk is the only Fist imperil I think that you would run right now. And if you missed on him, again, he's a premium unit. So there's not really a reason to equip Fist on anyone, and you don't even need to equip Fist on him. He uses axes as well, so like you could axe imperil, so I mean, there's not that many good axes in the game. There are much better fists, but when you think about it, there's really not great fists when you compare them to the other weapons. Like, there's really good guns, there's really good swords of all types, well, except for dagger, if you consider dagger a sword, but we will get a two-handed dagger soon, I think. Or no, there is a two-handed dagger. Kyros has a two-handed dagger. But we'll probably get a two-handed dagger on the next War of the Visions collab. I'm sure they'll probably give us like a Venera dagger or something that's two-handed. The key is these things need to be given to players so that new players, so they don't have to suffer through all of the running around and story mode stuff, which is horribly inefficient when it comes to respecting your time. And I've always been this advocate of this game really does a pretty good job of respecting your time. Like you can log in, burn all your stuff in 20 minutes, log out, and you don't have to log in for at least 5 more hours if it's raid time. And even then, like you don't even have to worry about raid because you get raid for 2 weeks, and if you can't get all the stuff farmed, even just casually doing like 15 orbs a day, whenever you can fit them in, like I don't know what's going on with your account. So the problem is I noticed with a new account, like actually this doesn't hold true at all. So this game respects your time after you get everything straightened out, and that takes a couple weeks of playing a lot and playing smart and following like a similar path to one of these better creators example with their accounts and stuff. And some of it depends on your pulls. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of re-rolling accounts and stuff in mobile games, but you know, with so much RNG, I don't blame anybody for re-rolling and trying to get like a really good setup of having like at least one good attacker, a good magic tank, a good physical tank, you know, and like a good breaker. Like it makes sense to re-roll until you get like that to work with, because it will exponentially improve the process you make through the crappy parts of the game. And it really does behoove you to start during a time where there's item world and raid at the same time, because you get all those refills. Like I was saying, like we shouldn't have had them this week at all, and it kind of played into if you started a new account the day that those two things got put in, 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, or whatever. You got an extra week of power leveling and currency farming and getting all your items through item world with good enhances on them and stuff. I've never seen more attack and magic plus 30% in my life than when I was doing item world on my new account here, and I was only running 2 bonus units out of 5. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if new accounts are juiced when it comes to item world, but man, it's an interesting thing to think about. I really don't. It's really going to be hard for me to recommend somebody new start the game, and I think that's a big problem. If you want this game to last another 4 years, you know, I think another 2 is probably pretty solid. There's enough people playing, but shit like what we're about to talk about next is definitely going to put us on a downhill trajectory for that. And I think you have nobody new coming in just because of how daunting the game is for a new player, because it really doesn't respect your time in the beginning. I think a good way around that, again, is to make items that people could get through this first 3 chapters of the story and make them readily available to get in some other way. Things that there's only one of, like Null Death should not be an STMR only on an out-of-date unit, and like a buy one dead accessory slot for Star Quartz. There should be Null Death on more than a seasonal unit, STMR, and like I said, a couple of things. Now, what's good is so here's a good example. Null Death was the example. Now go to Umaro. Umaro's a 7-star unit. He's in the pool. You can buy him with tickets, and his STMR is very, very good. It has Null Death and it has counter rate up. That's huge. So that's all I'm asking. I want more Blizzard Orbs. I want more Blizzard Orb style items in the game, and I'm hoping that there'll be an Equip Fist STMR that's not time limited, that's not premium, that comes on a future unit. That would be really cool to see, like when we get maybe updated, maybe we get a new NV carton, or maybe we get an upgrade to, I don't know, some other unit that uses Fist. We need another materia that says Equip Fist and so on, just like the ones that we got with Fravia, with Roberta, and with Olive. So I want to see more of that kind of stuff for new players, and I want a more condensed experience for people that are coming in. So that story's there. You can leave it there for forever. It's legacy content. I don't want to sunset it completely, but I do want to make an alternative way for people who want to dive into the deep end right away to get to where we are quicker. I think that's important for the longevity of the game. If you want it to go for another 4 years or so, it's probably going to take something like that. And I hope that, you know, JP does something like that, so it's not that difficult for Global to do it as well. But you know, Global can do it with their GLEX units. They have enough of them. You know, maybe one of the near guys will have some gear that gets us equip, I don't know, staff or something with stats and stuff on it, so it's not a completely dead weapon slot, something like that. Okay, and let's get to the last bit, which is unfortunately the worst bit. If you were bound to Facebook on Wednesday afternoon in North America, you could not get in anymore. And service was not restored for iOS and Google devices until Monday night, or well, technically Tuesday morning at 2 a.m. in North America, in the Eastern time zone. So, effectively 5 days. The game was down for 5 days. This is almost double the length, the previous record of the game being down for a certain group of users. I believe the iOS issue had people locked out for about 3 days. And with it happening for global that early in the morning for a lot of people, they lost that entire day. They didn't get to log in the morning and do their daily stuff there. And then with it coming back on so late on what was Monday for NA night, so like, you know, Tuesday in the morning, like 2 o'clock in the morning, a lot of people lost out on that day because the server ticks over at 4 a.m. Eastern time in North America. So even if you were on the West Coast, you know, you might have already been in bed when the game came back online after 11 o'clock, you know, or right around 11 o'clock. So to be able to get past the Facebook login problem. And that, you know, I've seen a lot of people speculating how many people that are tied to Facebook. Just keep this in mind. When the game first launched, it was the only option to bind. Google was not put in until much later. I even came back to the game when I heard that you could bind to Google because I thought that that was cool. And one of my biggest issues with the game was having to bind to Facebook. So I made a new account. I'm sorry, I loaded up my old account that I had. I bound it to Google. I had an ID like 071 something. That's how I tried the game. I tried it very early on. I pulled some stuff. This was the original Sora banner, I think. The original Kingdom Hearts crossover was around when I tried this, I believe, because I have, or maybe it was Chinese New Year of year 2 or year 3. I can't remember exactly for sure when it was. If it was 2018 or 2019. I'm trying to remember. You can go look that up though. I can't remember if it was first Kingdom Hearts collab or if it was Chinese New Year of 18 or 19. But jumped on, did that, whatever. I was playing for a little bit, and then I kind of didn't really care for where my account was at, and what they had started to do at the time was new accounts got all this stuff, you know, and they got all these things and summons and blah blah blah. So I made a new account on my phone, and I bound it to Facebook because you could do 2 accounts and bind them back and forth. And I was playing on emulators at the time. Back then, my emulators on Windows 7 actually worked, and I was playing both of the accounts at the same time. And I played both accounts at the same time for about a month or two before I was like, the game's not really for me, and so on. I had other games. I was still playing Summoner's War. I was in the process of discovering King's Raid, which was I played for about 2 or 3 years. So this kind of just lay dormant until end of 2019, 2020, when my King's Raid guild merged and my people on my raid team basically left the game. I dropped it, and I wanted something to do on my phone because I'd have downtime at work where I would be just waiting for things to break. So, not wanting to do stuff on a work computer that can be monitored and tracked by your company, I wanted to do something on my phone in my free time, and also in all the other idle times of life. You go on a plane and you can't, you don't have a Steam Deck back then, and you don't like Nintendo, even though the Switch wasn't. I think the Switch came out Oh, it was out. It was out, but I was not gonna buy it. I'm not a Nintendo guy, so I'm not gonna buy a Switch. Not anymore. I was a Nintendo guy when I was a kid. 64 and GameCube, last Nintendo systems I've ever bought. But yeah, and GameCube was a mistake. That was all for Phantasy Star Online. That's the only reason I bought one, because you could play offline and online on GameCube. Um, yeah, so like having something on a phone would be cool. It's a good time killer or whatever. I just wanted to find something that respected my time. I couldn't find anything that really respected my time, so I came back to this game. And for whatever reason, the account that was still on my phone was the one that I bound to Facebook. That's the one I stuck with. And the reason I didn't rebind to Google once they made it to where you could unbind and bind to the other social media is because I never knew if I wanted to go back and use that old account. Maybe I want to play two, who knows? Just forgot about it. And, well, I didn't forget about it, but I forgot about it in the way that, I wasn't going to go back and play a second account ever again. And I just kind of got into a groove, and I spent a little bit here and I spent a little bit there, and I had a pretty good account after a while, and here I am, and it's bound to Facebook. So given the choice between the two, I never would have picked Facebook. I'm not a Meta guy. I'm not on the Meta platform in the way that you would expect somebody to be on the Meta platform. I actually completely abstained from it starting this year. My birthday's in January, so in January after my birthday, I now only use it for news on one of my local businesses where I'm a lifetime member. So I check for status updates on there because they post updates on there more regularly than Twitter, and they have a group on there where they talk to all the lifetime members, and we get advance notice of stuff. Now I'm not great about checking it. I only maybe check it once a week, but that's the only reason I actually have it. And then I didn't deactivate my account. Also, I feared if I deactivated my account, I wouldn't be able to handshake and get in to my BE account. So I don't actually have it or use it. It's around. The app's not on my phone. Shit like that. It's not something that I ever even think about looking at. It's just a toxic place to be. It's owned by people who I don't think have a very good idea for business and ethics, and I don't like anything that they're doing. So I really don't know. Like, when people went to Facebook Gaming from Twitch, I was like, well, I guess I'm not watching that person anymore. Just not something I participate in. I don't think less of anybody who does, but it's one of those personal things. It's like I don't personally shop at Walmart because I don't like the way that they treat their people or the way that they abuse all these things that they abuse. I go to Costco instead, where the people are paid well and so on. That's the business I patronize. It's a personal thing. And then Google had a login issue a little while back as well. So I never really felt the need to switch until now. And knowing that it can happen on both platforms and that Gumi's not paying attention in whatever capacity they're not paying attention, I'd rather be in with Google. So what I did was I logged into my old account with Google. I looked at what I had, realized, yeah, this is just a bunch of stuff from the 6-star era, or like maybe it was the start of the 7-star era. I'm not really sure. And I was like, there's nothing on here that's worth anything. And I unbound it, and it's gone into the nether for forever. I switched my account from Facebook to Google. I had to re-invite a couple of my friends that I had through Facebook in the app manually. And then I, started this new account, and it's unbound on my other device. I don't really know if I'm going to keep it or not. I probably will bind it to Facebook just to make sure it doesn't go away for forever, as I do plan on getting a new phone next year. So what I might end up doing, since I have a flagship device that's a little over 4 years old right now, it'll be 5 years old. Wait, no, it's not 4 years old, is it? Yeah, 4 years old, yeah. Because I got it in 19, so next year it'll be 4 years old. 19 to 20, 20 to 21, 21 to 22. Did I get it in 18? It's an S10. Yeah, it'll be 4 years old next year, so probably, usually what happens is they will stop supporting firmware updates and so on for this device. It'll have run its course. That's what I do. I buy a flagship device up front when it's brand new, and then I ride it for 4 to 5 years after that. So I might get one next year. I might wait another year and get one the year after. I'm not really sure. We'll kind of see how the phone's performance goes. I'm already kind of in the market for something with a little bit more hard drive space, because I had to settle for 128 gig when I got this one, just because all the rest of them were pre-ordered out and everything. But we'll see how it goes. But binding this account to Facebook will probably be a fine for me. I won't care if I get into it or not. I'll play it once in a great while. I'm definitely going to keep my old phone though and have it be my like Chromecast device because it's got a good enough processor in it and good enough RAM to really be able to cast the stuff and do a good job at casting it. Like my tablet casting is just like amazingly bad. So I'm definitely going to keep the phone around. So having a second account to bind to Facebook and like having my device that's only Wi-Fi, that's effectively a tablet but phone size, I think is a fine thing to have. Although I might want to re-roll again. You know, I might see a different, you know, better set of events, and I might re-roll again into that. Because like I said, I didn't get great pulls. There's nothing super meta-defining in my pulls. I think my best pulls were like Fravia and I don't even know. Probably not. I mean, I would rather probably start at a time where like there's a great card that's like absolutely undisputably amazing and it's a great unit that's on the banner, and it's like that's the time to jump into another account and go all the way to pity and you know so on. But it's also kind of cool to just have an extra account where you can get all the login rewards, so whenever there's really good login rewards, you know. So I might re-roll it at some other point in time, so no idea, but I'll use my Facebook binding for that. So that's where I'm at personally. I am now on Google, and I am, you know, regretting that I didn't do this sooner, especially with what has happened. Let's talk about the actual issue. There's lots of speculation on what it is. Me working in the area of this, but not directly with things like this, I think it's at least Gumi's fault at 51%. We know for a fact that not every game that handshakes with Facebook for a login was down at the time that Facebook did some kind of update. Maybe one or two other games were down, and a vast majority of them were up fine. I have another game on my phone that I have linked to this in the same way. That's old and I don't play anymore, but I checked it out and it worked fine. So I think if you're gonna lay blame at either meta or, and I hate meta, we just established that I hate meta. Gumi, I'm neutral to slightly negative on, you know, because I can only recall like one or two good experiences, and then I have a lot of negative ones. So an anniversary of this year is probably the only super overall positive experience I don't have any critique for. Yeah, so that is what it is. But I have to put at least 51% blame to Gumi's side, because whatever it was, they didn't react, they didn't adjust, they weren't prepared, they didn't call anybody in for overtime, they didn't call anybody in to get it fixed as soon as possible. All those things are strikes in my book. You should have at least a couple people ready to go and fix something, or at least find the root cause. Then if you don't have that, you should have somebody that can keep in contact with the player base and keep them updated and explain what's going on. I think when something like this happens, if you have good communication and you're clear about it, and even if you own being at fault, your players are going to be more understanding of you than if you just don't say anything. And I understand that that's a difference in culture, but this is the global version of the game. They're primarily servicing North America, South America, Europe, Africa, right? So, and Australia. So in all those other continents that aren't Asia, basically, like, you know, the cultural norm is somebody speaks up and lets people know what's going on. You know, like, it's just the way that PR is done everywhere else but Asia, I guess. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's something that's rampant throughout the culture still, if that's still the social norm where you just don't say anything and nobody asks any questions. But in America especially, there's a lot of Karens running around here that will demand to speak to the manager. And you know, I'm particularly in that boat. Like, I don't need the fix to be right away. I don't mind if we're going to lose 3 or 4 days of playing, but I need to be told up front, like, hey, it's going to take, we won't be able to fix this until next week for sure. So don't bother trying to log in during the weekend because it ain't going to be up. Tell me that right away. I'm thinking, okay, at least they know what it is. They know what their limitations are. They have an ETA. That's acceptable. And we know they're going to give compensation. So if they're admitting to us up front how long it's going to take minimum to get it fixed, then that's going to be a very good scale for the compensation that we should get. Fair. So piss poor situation, piss poor response, and piss poor PR and communication to your community. And, you know, you could say that this is probably because we don't have like a pure community manager anymore that, you know, we can count on for this kind of thing, or for them to tell the leaders at this company how important it is for these things to happen. I don't think that Tony is the new community manager for the game. I think he's simply around, as I said last week, for hosting that weekly stream and being what we would call like a community lead, or a community, it would be somebody who would report to the community manager. It'd be a subordinate of the community manager. Somebody does a lot more of the information gathering, and then the community manager is typically going to be doing the aggregation of the data that their people gather from the forums, from talking to players, from streams or whatever. And then they're going to be the one who goes in the boardroom and has the presentations and actually pitches what the community's feeling and shows the stats, what the community's feeling, and makes it make sense to the people that are designing and making the game. You know, so I don't know if that position will ever be filled, and if it's not filled by the right person, I don't know if we're going to get what we want out of the devs, especially, you know, when it comes to that communication problem. Next up, what should the compensation be? And I could lay more blame at Gumi's, you know, for whatever, but I think I was as succinct as I could be there, and you know, like I said, 51% their fault for sure, maybe more. You know, we'll never know. Neither company is going to tell us. So, what should the compensation be? Well, you lost. You have to consider 5 days lost. Wednesday was a lost day because a lot of people in global, most people in the Western Hemisphere, weren't up in time to log in and let alone get their dailies done. Even if they logged in at 10 o'clock, they might not have gotten all their dailies done if they were going to do the super site and the ore, and if, you know, if they were going to do, maybe they had all 10 pips of a item world, they had 5 raid orbs, you know. They had arena. Maybe they're not somebody who burns all the arena orbs in one shot. Maybe they actually try to rank up. And why would you be that? Why would you be that like rushed to get things done if you don't anticipate the game going down until, you know, over 12 hours later? So that's a lost day. It has to be considered a lost day. It should be counted as 24 hours no matter what. The next 3 days are completely lost, and then you go into. Actually, it's 4 days. I'm sorry. So I would consider Wednesday a lost day. Thursday through Sunday are lost days. Or was it Sunday that was the day it came back up? No, it didn't come back up on Sunday for us because it was Monday. When it didn't come back on Monday in Japan, that's when I thought we're doomed till maintenance because, you know, we can't like. If they knew it was wrong, it would be fixed by now. If they knew it was wrong, and they had 2 business days to not be able to fix it, and assuming they didn't work on Saturday or Sunday, if they couldn't fix it on Monday, we were definitely going to be doomed until maintenance. Something is wrong to the point where the game has to come back down, you know, for them to fix it. But then, to my surprise, Monday night, i.e. Tuesday in Japan, it came back up. Very, 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 like I mentioned, early in the morning for Tuesday. So this is Monday after midnight. You're talking about 1:30 to 2 o'clock in the morning. Ish is when I found out. That's a lost day as well. You can't reasonably expect, you know, 2 hours of play to count as a day. That day's lost as well. So Wednesday through Monday were lost. That's 6 days. 5? Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 6 days. So we need 6 days of compensation. I lost the last 2 days of my Fountain of Lapis. So you can go on Reddit. You can see people have done calculations of what we lost. You know, you've lost 6 days of Frag Dungeon. You've lost 6 days of Ore and Super Site from your Espers. You've lost 6 days of your daily Enlightenment, which, you know, they are used to upgrade killers. That is valid. 6 days of the Gil, the once-a-day Gil thing. You've lost 6 days of being able to buy a maximum Cactuar for 30, whatever it is in here, because you can buy that once a day. And some people need that shit. If you have a newer account, you need to buy this. You need to buy this Cactuar for 30 G's every day. 30 G's every day. You lost this. Like I said, if you had a fountain, you lost that. You might have been slacking a little bit on your Crest Pass, and your Crest Pass might not be able to be maxed now because, you know, you were planning on farming out the last bit of whatever, you know, and so on. So this might be an issue as well. They did extend the events, but the problem is, if you plan to get it done over the weekend and then not play at all in the last 2 days, or the last 2 days, so today and yesterday, you're not going to max your Crest Pass for the ship before this, the three before this, not the one, the Suncrest one. You know, if you were like, maybe you were playing on the weekend, you're planning on, okay, I'm going to bang this out on the weekend, but then on like Monday I leave for vacation with my family for 2 weeks, and I'm not going to be able to log in. Well, you can't max this Crest Pass out now. You know, if you're unable to play now. So there's all sorts of stuff like that. You know, Clash of Wills is going to stay open. We got restores for that, I believe, already. That's fine. Item World is not a big deal because Item World is going to come back around. Item World, you probably, if you've been playing at all recently, you have a ton of refills for Item World, and you know, as long as you were able to fill up the stuff from Item World and get the items that dropped from Item World, and this was up for a week and a half before. This one I'm not as concerned about. Item World comes back around. The raid on the Crest Pass, I think there should be some compensation for this. You should at least get raid orb refreshes. I think we did get some raid orb refreshes, so that's a good thing. So this just you know, you could go on and name about the daily stuff that you may have lost. Plus, so you're gonna have all the energy that you would have regened as well. That obviously has to go into consideration. All the energy you would have regened and so on. So you can do all the calculations there. You can get the pots. You could get the raid orb restores. You could get the Item World orb restores. You could get the Clash of Will orb restores. You could do all that. But let's talk about Lapis. So you got to give everybody at least 2,000 Lapis per day, in my opinion, to compensate people for the Lapis they could have farmed through regular activities. The daily event that is not sticking around, because that has, I think it was like 100 or something like that. I want or 1,500 to 2,000, somewhere in there. So I think 10,000 is probably fair. I think 10,000 is fair. And then, you know, we need the ore. You should give everybody the Esper ore. So, let's see, it's 5 times 4. So that's 20 per day. So it's 120. And then you should probably get another 20-ish for how many expeditions you could have run, for relics that you could have used to then craft Esper ore. So I think, and then a little more on top for the inconvenience, I think 150 Esper ore minimum is what you should get. So 10k Lapis, 150 Esper ore. All the restores and everything that we just talked about. And then I think they did extend the ticket turn-in, but again, what if you were going to do all this on the weekend and you lost a weekend, so now you can't log in. I think the ticket turn-in should be extended for another week. And then, of course, the daily summons. We lost 6 days of 10 daily summons. So I think that everybody should get 6 guaranteed NV 10+1 tickets to make up for that. Now, some people are going to argue that, like, oh, well, I didn't get any NVs for my daily 10 summons. Well, I made a new account, and in the new account, in the last 3 days that I played this account, I've pulled 6 NVs from the 3 10+ daily summons. So this was a down game, okay? You could not get into a game and play. That is a fact. It's not disputable. It's just simply reality. What you might have gotten as RNG in the game is not quantifiable. We do have an amount of spins on the wheel, though, that you would have had. you're owed something a little bit better than just a spin on the wheel for the inconvenience. You wanted to come in the casino and spin the wheel, but the casino was closed the days you had off. Now you got to come in after work, tired, not as into it, and you got to spin the wheel. I think a 10+1 guaranteed 1 NV is the way to go, because not only is it a little bit of an upgrade from what you would have gotten each day, however, it's the least you could do because the NV pool is so large and there's so many bad NV units in it. Since it's not going to be guaranteed to be on banner, your 1 NV that people are going to get is most likely going to be pretty bad. You know, it's also a great way to capitalize on all these people who came back from Anniversary. They might not have played in the entire NV era. Why not give them a few extra NVs, especially because you screwed up? It's a great excuse to give everybody a few NVs. So I think that's needed. Add that onto the pile. Then I think outside of Clash Pots, everybody kind of deserves an extra 300 to 500, you know, obnoxious or whatever those shards are that you turn in. I don't remember. Or Xenostone. I think you deserve some Xenostone. You know, even though you got Clash restores. What if you're not like? What if you're a newer account and like this Clash is not a Clash you have the gear for? It's aquatic. That's pretty tough. I think that it's a good faith show to new players that don't have as much time to work on it now. That you can give them a little bit of extra Xenostone to get them situated. So yeah, I think all those things I just listed need to come in, and they need to come in hot. I think that in this situation, it's much better to overcompensate than to undercompensate, because you're dealing with a whole nother PR nightmare if you do that. And I think you should just give them to everybody. Don't try to only give them to Facebook users. A lot of people are going to be jaded by this, like I was. They're going to switch their binding from Facebook to Google. Now you're going to ask people to stay on Facebook, which they just had a big issue with, and wait until you give them your compensation to give them compensation, because I don't see how they're going to do it to accounts that are bound, that used to be bound to Facebook. Like if you unbound from Facebook and bound to Google, like I did, and they go by if your account was affected or not, I feel like I'm not going to get my rewards now. However, I don't give a shit about the compensation. I actually don't care. I just said what I think should be the compensation. If they came out and said, we're not going to give any compensation whatsoever, I'm not going to stop playing the game. Okay? Let me be very, very crystal clear on that. I will not stop playing the game. I enjoy the game for what it is. And frankly, I've got a good enough account to where I don't want to stop playing anytime soon. However, if the compensation is not good enough, or if it's not given to everyone, especially if it's only given to Facebook users that are still bound to Facebook, because that's just gonna lead to people unbinding, then rebinding, then logging in to get their rewards, then logging back out, and then unbinding again, and then binding back to Google. You know, but like, oh, actually no, that won't happen because you're actually screwed out of attempts now. So like you were basically stuck going, okay, like hey, if I unbind from Facebook, you can never bind this account to Facebook ever again. It's like, okay. So I don't actually give a shit about their rewards. I really don't, because what happens is if they just go by who's bound to Facebook and push them out, I'll bind the extra account I just started to Facebook and I'll get those rewards. I'll get them on an account that actually needs them way more than my account does. I'm actually totally fine with that, but I don't think it's the right move for the entire community. Just give the rewards to everybody. Give the rewards to the people because they're Facebook friends. They had to play their raid or their whatever, and they couldn't message their Facebook friend and have them create a unit for them to do a trial that they wanted to do on the weekend. Because they couldn't get in and they couldn't change the gear around on their friend unit that they were going to share. Just give it to everybody. Show compassion, show leadership, and show that you want this game to survive and that you want to keep gaining revenue from it. Give those rewards that I just mentioned, minimum, to everybody. Without qualification. And make the window large. Make it 2-ish weeks. And even if you're stupid enough to only give it to people bound on Facebook, Don't try to do some weird thing where you try to see whose account was bound to Facebook, when the outage was affected, and blah, blah, blah. You already couldn't fix the issue with 3 days. You weren't willing to pay anybody overtime to work on the weekend to fix it. And you weren't somebody wasn't paying attention to what Facebook was up to, because other games were not down and your game was. So there was something that went wrong on your side, even if it was, something out of your control. If a data center caught on fire and a server went down, you didn't tell us. If you would have told us that, everybody would be like, oh, no problem. Shit happens. I worked at a major Fortune 500 company when their main data center caught on fucking fire, and like it literally took out our whole network for like 7 hours. Like we basically couldn't work because, the actual company network was dead in the main area where all the stuff was. It was a giant fire. It was just a giant fire. They had foam and they had to replace everything. Even with a crisis team working around the clock, they got us on backup systems, and it took them about a week to actually replace all the stuff that was there. And we're talking big money and like backup shit, like within a couple miles in a warehouse on hand just in case, shit like that. This handshake issue should have been able to be fixed by a few good coders and a liaison to Meta in the time that they have before the weekend. And if you're not going to pay those people overtime to get it done over the weekend, or get it done on Monday, get everything maybe it's like, okay, we can't talk to Facebook until Monday. Get everything staged so that when you talk to Facebook on Monday, you get what you need to get and get it on as soon as you can on Monday. And that everybody Sunday night or, into Monday morning, early Monday morning, when they log on Global, is going to be able to get back in. So that's what needs to happen. Again, I'm not going to stop playing if it doesn't happen. Even if they do the Facebook only thing, I'm going to bound. I'll either re-roll or I'll keep the one I got and I'll re-roll and I'll whatever, and then I'll bind that and I'll get the rewards that way, and an account that can actually use those rewards or compensation or whatever. But I can tell you what I can't do, and I can tell you what every dolphin, minnow, whatever you want to call us, who spend like $7 to $20 a month in the game. We buy a crest pass sometimes. We buy a fountain sometimes. Sometimes I'll buy a $25 pack if I need the shards for somebody, and I need 5k lapis. Maybe I'll buy 5k lapis to buy some fragments or whatever. Once in a while. I don't mind it. I pay for Netflix, I pay for Hulu, I pay for, Amazon, I pay for Paramount, I pay for all this other shit. I don't have a problem spending a mediocre amount of money for something that I spend so much time with. I pay $20 to $40 for video games here and there. I don't mind buying in. I have a Final Fantasy subscription right now. It's $13 a month. Don't have an issue with it. The quality's there. It's worth that much. But what I can do, if this compensation is not right, if it's not properly given out to the right people and it's not good enough, I can pull that back. My account's at a point now where I don't have to spend a dime. And I can do mostly everything. Maybe I won't rank 1 in Clash anymore. Maybe I'll rank 1,000. Maybe I won't have the best stuff. Maybe I'll have to wait for some of the evergreen content and go back and do it a month later. I don't have to spend money on this game. And if the company doesn't take care of the players for this huge dropping of the ball, which they do more often than not, then I can pull back what I'm going to spend. Just like I mentioned before, when I don't use Meta, don't shop at Walmart. I try to keep my giant corporate spending to a minimum, as a personal decision. I'm not asking anybody else to do it. I'm not saying boycott the game. I'm not saying stop playing. I'm not doing it. What I can do personally to show my dissatisfaction with the way they handle it, if they don't handle it well, is to pull back my money to close my wallet off to this game. Because if they aren't going to do this, I don't see their long-term vision for the game really being what we all want it to be. And that means spending more money in the future is just throwing it into a pit and setting it on fire anyway. Like buying anything in a gacha game is pretty much doing that. But if you enjoy the experience along the way and you have a great time and you have great memories from it, it's worth your money. That's why people go to see films and concerts. And that's why I go to the comedy club. That's why I go out and have a couple drinks, shoot a couple games of pool. I don't gain anything physical from that. It's all intrinsic, So I don't mind throwing down a couple bucks to have a great time playing this game and to make friends and be a part of the community. But if the company doesn't care about us, that's the reason to pull away sooner rather than later. So that's the longest episode we've had since anniversary. Thanks everybody for coming out and hanging out with me tonight. We're going to get this up on YouTube. And we're going to go play some Final Fantasy 14 after this. If you want to come hang out, link to Twitch will be in the description. And we do every Wednesday and Sunday. We stream. This month it's pretty much all Final Fantasy 14 because we're resubbed. There are some, stop gaps though. There's only so much content you can do in a day. I'm leveling a new job all the way to 90. I've got Ninja hovering around the 42-ish mark right now. So we're definitely going to be doing some of that. We're doing. We've got weeklies to do. I got 2 raids left. I'm going to do tonight. And so there'll be some other MMOs maybe sprinkled in between. Maybe some other games here and there. Maybe some retro here and there. But this month of September, it's going to be all Final Fantasy 14. So come and hang out with me there. And we'll see you back next week for This Week in Brave Exvius. Second half of Final Fantasy 14, we're getting the Vision World. We might even get a surprise third week of Final Fantasy 10. Final Fantasy 10 Vision World starting tomorrow. We're getting Kamari, and who knows? With Vision World, since it'll be open for 2 weeks, maybe we'll get some surprise extra Final Fantasy 10 units the week after, and maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just get some units that are really good at doing some of the content, but yeah, this Vision World looks really cool. A lot of races. Every element's involved, so you'll be able to use all your units somewhere, probably. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun to talk about and review next week. So join us here. Same bad time, same bad channel. 20 RTs. I'll see you guys on the next one.